I like these kind of formatted screens because I think slowly when I think of stress, coming out of stress, we're coming out towards the light. And so this was my choice. So did you all get this kind of stress test?
No.
Okay, well, it came, Erin sent it out this morning. But let's just take a minute to look at it. One of the things I have to tell you is this isn't a standardized test. This is one for individuals who are kind of, they type in stress test or some of the people as you think about stress. And what does it kind of say is to make you aware of some of your behaviors that might kind of tell you that you're under stress. So yell, cry, or withdraw a lot. So one of the things that when we start with stress, withdrawing is one of the first signs I think that many of us do. Feel sad, disappointed, or worried. And so we're all going to have some of these symptoms at one time or another, but it's not, this type of stress is not the debilitating stress, but this, so if you have just one of these, it might be that you're having some moods or you're certainly had some disappointments in life that you're reacting to. So just not very, eat too much or too little based on your mood. So I think we all have days like that, right? Feel that you aren't in control of your life. Have trouble letting go of things that are bothering you. Blame yourself or think that nothing goes right, right? So that's kind of we begin to have these symptoms, and as they build, it means that we can do that. You regret being angry or short-tempered with others. Feel like your emotions are not letting the best of you come out. Use alcohol, cigarettes, or drugs to cope with stress. Chocolate doesn't really count. So prescription count or street drugs particularly are damaging. Have sleep problems. You either sleep way too much or you're not getting enough of restful sleep. Feel like things are overwhelming or out of control. So we laugh or smile less than we used to. So this, you know, we kind of talked about taking a look at ourselves and feel like, do we have stress? We all have stress, and we're all going to have some stress. But again, when these things come, if they're short-lived and they don't last for, like, usually they talk about 2 weeks, right? If you begin having these symptoms for 2 weeks, then it's probably getting to be a problem and you should talk to somebody. Questions about this? There are lots of standardized tests out there, and we use a number of them both at work and personally, but I kind of like this one because we all have something in here we can relate to, right? And so how do we take a look at that and think, is it really getting the best of me? Or am I just wanting ice cream right now, right? So think about that. So when we think about the stress process, we all face stressful situations, and it's going to be throughout our lifetime, right? Unfortunately, none of us are exempt from stress. And so what we're trying to do is control our emotions and how we think about stress, as opposed to stress controlling us. So there's lots of minor annoyances like traffic jams, right? And we kind of get into them, and sometimes we can even think of a release valve that we had. So when I used to do a lot of driving in the cities, usually I drove alone, and somebody cut me off, I just let out a lingo, right? And then it was gone, right? Well, one time I had someone riding with me, and they said, "Oh, we didn't think you knew words like that." Right? And so I said, well, wait a minute here. My real goal is to release my stress, not to scare my passengers. And so I had to choose maybe another way of behaving after that kind of incident. So, but there are more serious worries, such as as a loved one's grave illness, sometimes financial difficulties, loss of job, children get into trouble, all kinds of things that are kind of a little more serious for us. And we do need to realize that stress goes with that, because stress also motivates us to do good things sometimes. Stress, though, does flood your body with hormones. And the physical response to those hormones is that your heart pounds, your breathing speeds up, your muscles tense. Are there any others that you can think of? Or maybe you experience? So I remember one time I was really tense about something, and I just felt like my arms got real weak, right? Sometimes you set your jaw, right? Or you feel you start to kind of pull your muscles up. And so there's lots of responses, and none of them are right or wrong. It's just that we need to be aware that those responses might be from the stress that we're experiencing. So a stress response is a normal reaction to a threatening situation. So the particular article that I was reading says it gave this kind of long history about our prehistory to help us survive threats, right? Was actually our fight or flight response. And we have our fight or flight response from the beginning of time. It helped people when they lived outdoors. So if they were in the cave at night and a saber-toothed tiger, this is the story, right? And you see it over and over, that appears at the opening to the cave. Do you fight or do you fight or fly, right? Or run away? That's what we're talking about. And so with us, we're kind of fortunate in that we actually have a little bit of a third response. We can freeze just like a rabbit. A rabbit freezes when they see a dog. And I think that's actually the flight response, because what they're looking for is an escape mechanism. And so we kind of have a little bit of that too. And it's rarely faced, right? We don't have to have the fight or flight response every day. But when we do have challenging situations, it will set off a stress response. And so if you think about that, you think, well, maybe I don't have that so much. Maybe I've kind of calmed down and stuff. But think of yourself if a police officer is following you, right? Don't you automatically start to maybe slow down a little bit, start looking, make sure you're in your lane, and so we all have some of those. And so we know we can't avoid all stress in our life. And really, we don't want to, because it does help us, right? That officer might be behind us because there's an accident in front of us. And if we can begin to slow down and begin to see those things, that's really a good thing. I kind of say I don't think I would have made it through college if I didn't have that deadline stress, right? People set the deadline and you better have your paper in. I'm somebody that I could spend all day or all week or all month or all year writing a paper. And so those deadlines really do help us. And the thing that we have the opportunity to do is develop healthier ways of responding to the stress response. And so one of the things when I think about this computer stuff, right, I'm always a little nervous in the beginning, getting my documents on and stuff like that. But at the same time, I can choose to look at that as I'm learning a new skill, right? It will be wonderful someday, and it will pay off for me, I think, or at least help me. So we think about stress as helping us reach our accomplishments. And so that's one of the things I'm hoping we'll talk about a little bit later, is how has stress helped you reach some of your accomplishments. The relaxation response is kind of interesting in that it was developed in 1970, which I thought was kind of late, right? I guess I thought it was around a lot longer. And Dr. Herbert Benson at the Harvard Medical School, who's a cardiologist, developed it. The relaxation response is the opposite of stress response. And that's where we want to get to, right? So we're having all that stress. If we can dip into maybe a well of calm that we've put aside, then that's going to help us get through stressful situations better. So when we think of this, the relaxation response, it's actually described as a state of profound rest that can be achieved in many ways. And with regular practice, you can create this well of calm in you to dip into you as the need arises. So the more stressful the situation, I mean, don't you know people? And you wonder, how did they ever get through all of that? I think of people in our congregations that maybe have had 2 or 3 people sick at the same time, or they'll lose family members at once, and you wonder how they ever get through that. And the interesting thing is that once we've developed this well of calm, we can dip into it. It's not that we're not going to get nervous, but we know we're going to make it. That's the difference. So when I think about kind of our schedule, so if we're looking at kind of this regular practice, we'll talk a little later about this too. I think of how many regular practices that we have, right? Time, we go to work about the same time, or maybe we do things about the same time. Our activities, right? We brush our teeth every day, right? We kind of fit these in. Sleep, if we go to bed and get up about the same time every day, this is where I struggle. I'm a night person, and so I'm not good at this one. But I know if I do get on a regular schedule, I do much better than when I'm not. It's kind of like, why don't you do things that are good for yourself, Gal? Right? Yeah. Kind of eat about the same time every day. We try, and this is the one I want to talk about, time for self, right? So we have a schedule, right? We're running with the kids, we're making dinner, we're going to work, we're coming back, going to church, got all these meetings, right? But we don't build into our schedule time for ourselves. And so if you can put that into your schedule, that's really a good thing. So my husband and I happen to do devotions every morning, and that really has, I think it saved me from lots of situations. Right? So I said, well, how much time for yourself do you really need? And the actual answer to that, I think I put it in one of my other tiles, is 36 minutes is what you actually need to reach a full and a deep sense of relaxation. Right? Now, there's different beliefs about this. Sometimes the belief is that the 36 minutes has to be all together, right? But the other belief is that if you can take 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, 5 minutes at noon, you got 15 minutes in there already. You see that? And so if we begin to see that as our time to relax, so part of it is the perception that we're relaxing that helps us. And so, one of my last slides is maybe assignments. And so I'm asking you to think ahead and give me a time that you're going to do something for just a couple minutes every day. So Harvard also talked about 6 relaxation techniques, and this is the one I'm using. So there's lots of other techniques that we'll go through, but we're going to take a look at these 6 to see if these are things that maybe will work for us. And what I like about this is right down here at the bottom, it says may be appropriate for those, right? And so this kind of outlined who might benefit from this particular technique most. A lot of times we just put techniques out there, but we don't kind of say, well, maybe this is the best for me. And so the breath focused is just really simple, and it's a powerful technique. It's just where you take a long, slow, deep breath. It's also known as the abdominal or belly breathing technique. And what I like about this technique is you can actually use it anywhere. It does say you disengage your mind from distracting thoughts, but if you walk into a room of crowded people and you all of a sudden feel nervous, you can still take deep breaths and it'll begin to calm you. I know if I'm meeting with my group at work and I'm kind of nervous, like right now, okay, a little bit nervous because I'm doing presenting, and I want to make sure that the message gets out. So if I come early and sit down and take some deep breaths, it almost always go better than when I've rushed in at the last minute and started to go through it. So as you breathe, gently disengage your mind from distracting thoughts and sensations. This particular technique can be especially helpful for people with eating disorders because it helps them focus on their bodies in a positive way. But it may not be appropriate for those with health problems that make breathing difficult, such as respiratory elements or heart failure. Now, with breathing, even when you have those, it is important, but I think the difference is if you're actually kind of making your belly go up and down, right? As opposed to thinking about your breathing. I'm breathing, I'm here, it's now. So that's a good thing. There are some recent studies out though, that people who do have maybe heart failure, if they're doing deep breathing, they take in a little bit more CO2 and in their body, and it's harder. It makes their heart work a little more because it's trying to distribute all of that air. And so make sure that you choose one of these techniques that really works for you. Just because I think it's great doesn't mean you have to do it, right? So remember that. The other one, and we're going to do 6, but the second one is the body scan. And the body scan, kind of all of these techniques will tell you to focus a little bit on your breath. Because as you begin to come aware of everything, then it also kind of, that's one of those things that you are alive, you are who you are, and you might have something good to say. And so to really focus on that breath. So it blends the breath focus with progressive muscle relaxation. So after a few minutes of deep breathing, you focus on one part of muscles or one part of your body or a group of muscles at a time. So when I think about that, I think about if you're thinking about your feet, you take your toes and you kind of curl them up tight, right? And then you hold that for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then you release it so that any of the physical tension you feel there is released. And you actually do that up all of your muscles. So from your knee, you might go to your ankle or your foot where you push down. You might then go to your lower calf where you tighten them and release, and on up through your thighs, your stomach, your chest, your arms, your hands, and even your shoulders. One of them has them do your face, but I've had a little trouble with my face, so I've not been able to tighten that up quite as well. But to think about each group, even your head, if you can kind of tighten your eyes real tight and release it, then that releases some of the energy that you've built up. And you can feel a little bit of calm after that. Again, a body scan helps boost awareness of the mind-body connection. But if you've had recent surgery that affects your body image, or you have difficulties with body image, this technique may not be helpful. So we have an expert here in these 3 that can help us, I think. Jenny teaches yoga at church, and she's done it for years. And if you ever watch her, I'm always impressed with her flexibility and balance. So I think that this is a tribute to one of these. But 3 ancient arts combine breathing with a sense of posture and flowing movements. The physical aspects offer a mental focus that helps distract you from racing thoughts. It again enhances your flexibility and balance. If you're not normally active, or you have health problems or a painful, disabling condition, these techniques may be too challenging. And make sure you check with your doctor before starting. But they're good. Jenny, do you have anything to say about this?
Well, you can do yoga in a chair if you have various issues with your body in various places.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was going to say in yoga class, we even relax our scalps.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? You wouldn't think that there's a lot of muscles up there. We're always relaxing our scalp.
Mm-hmm.
And
So that's kind of fun.
we practice.
You might have to lead us in one of those.
We practice not to walk around like with your shoulders like way up here.
Mm-hmm.
Because we hold a lot of tension in our neck and shoulders and well, other places too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whenever I think about this one, when I was young, I had gotten braces, and so I kind of walk around like this.
Oh.
You know? My dad would walk over to me and grab my shoulders and pull them till like about 2 feet down, you know. Then he told me, I want everybody in the world to know you have braces. You better be smiling. So anyway, but yeah, particularly I did a stint doing Tai Chi. And again, you start out and I probably was pretty clumsy, but towards the end, it did give me a great sense of relief. You know, I really, really felt calm, and you just feel the energy flow after you do Tai Chi. The energy just flows through you. So it's just kind of fun to get that, to feel that. You know, not that you need to do anything with it, but just to feel like there's some energy that's starting to move. So guided imagery is to where someone will conjure up scenes, places, or experience in their mind to help them relax and focus. There are many free apps and online recordings of calming scenes. And just make sure you choose something that you really do find soothing. And it's helpful if it has personal significance for you. So when I kind of wrote down just a few here that I think are important. Sometimes we forget about music, how much music can help us and can actually, you know, you hear music and all of a sudden you're someplace else in the world. And so I think that's great. The water, the mountains, and the plains, though, may all be different, right? So I have a special bond with water. I really like water. And my dad had a cabin, and it was kind of like you drove in, the cabin was down the hill, right? And I would always stand at the top of the hill, and as I looked out over the trees and the water, I could just feel all of the work stress and everything else just lift. And it was like, I'm here. I get to just finally really relax. So that was always a good feeling. My husband, though, who did learn to swim, but at one point almost drowned. He does not have that same kind of feeling about water scenes, right? And same way with mountains. I love the mountains to look at far off, but when I'm up there, I don't know. I didn't think I was afraid of heights, but sometimes you're too close to the edge, man, it feels scary. And so make sure you choose something that does provide that soothing feeling. And that's different for each of us. And so to be respectful of that. Guided imagery may help you reinforce a positive vision of yourself, but it can be difficult for those who have intrusive thoughts or find it hard to conjure up mental images, right? So this is kind of, when I thought about that, I thought, well, what does that mean? Well, some people actually learn by listening, right? Others learn by what they see. And there's several other ways to learn. But if you're somebody who learns by listening, those mental images may not come as quick. Right? I did listen to some tapes one time that was real helpful with guided imagery, and you can usually find those on an app out there too. So something
I
to
have a
think.
question on that,
Yeah.
Gail. So because you know it's like you're supposed to think of it in your mind, but you also say the free apps and online recordings of calming scenes. Does it work to just watch those things, or do you have to like sit there with your eyes closed and just imagine it in your mind? Or
No, yeah, you can watch them. You can watch them. Some of the scenes that I've got, like where it's calming scenes and I'm watching them, they also have music in the background. And
okay.
sometimes the music will actually kind of bring you to a calm more than the scene. But yeah, you don't have to sit. It's if you are in a room though where maybe you can't access your app, you certainly can close your eyes. I can close my eyes at any time and think of standing at the top of that hill
Mhm.
and overlooking the lake. And
Okay.
it does calm you. So I know you got some favorite. You go to, this is Beth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go up to Duluth every year, and
Right.
beautiful scenery up there.
Right.
Does one come to mind?
Well, just at our campsite, looking out at the lake.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So I found out some interesting things about mindful meditation. It involves usually sitting comfortably, focus on your breathing, and bringing your mind's attention to the present moment without drifting to the concerns about the past or the future. So mindfulness means today, right? So we're really thinking about today. So this meditation has really increased in popularity in recent years. And research suggests that it may be helpful for people with depression, anxiety, and pain. So now that's the meditation part of it, right? But you actually can use mindfulness at kind of the drop of the hat, so to speak. Again, there's kind of mindfulness workshops. They'll go for anywhere from a week down to an hour, right? To try and teach you mindfulness, which I think is interesting, from an hour to a week, right? So mindfulness really calls for awareness, right? So if you walk into a room and you start to feel anxious, and you're actually supposed to pick 5 things out of that room and say, there's a chair, there's a window, there's a clock, right? So you see what happened is you're bringing yourself into the present moment, but you're not making a judgment, and that's the acceptance. So most of the time, if we look at a chair, we want to know, is it soft? Is it big enough? Maybe it's a green chair, a lounge chair, dining room chair. We make those kind of judgments. And so with mindfulness, they're really asking you just to accept the chair as a chair and to let it go and not put those judgments on it. And so that really takes some practice. We're so used to seeing things or looking at things and making that kind of judgment that it's hard to let it go. Some of the research, though, on this technique is that they found that people who use mindfulness on a regular basis have actually been able to grow some of their brain back. And when I say that, they've used this with people who are beginning Alzheimer's. And the mindfulness kind of gives that peace, but it also kind of helps them slow that process down. And I think that's just amazing that we have been given these techniques so that we can use them and reach that state of calm, but that the benefits from that state of calm, we don't even know what they are. They might be limitless, but we're finding out more and more every day. So that's the difference in the See, this is from the article. These are my kind of additions, so that you know. You can't see my arrow, can you? Maybe you can. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see.
One of those things I don't know. And last but not least, the repetitive prayer. So we silently repeat a short prayer or phrase from prayer while practicing our breath focus. This can be especially appealing if your religious or spirituality is meaningful to you. So, and the most of this information I got from this Harvard Health newsletter, and Julie Corliss actually wrote the article that most of this is taken from. I want to make sure and give them proper credit. So, does anybody have questions about this stuff? One of the things I wanted to mention was that I have some handouts for deep breathing and for the body scan, but I didn't know if you'd want them. And I'd be happy to scan them to Erin or to get them to you so that you could have those. It just seemed like a lot to actually go into the deep breathing here. And so, so let me know. What do you think?
I'd like to receive them.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just scan them to Erin then, and she can send them out. And if you want them, great. And if you don't, you can delete them. That's one of the things that we have the power over with our computer. We can actually delete things.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.